The sky over planet Lyria shimmered with strange colors, a mix of violet and gold that seemed to ripple like water. The air was thick with the hum of unseen energy, and the ground pulsed faintly beneath Kale's boots. He had never seen anything like this world. Even the trees seemed alive, their trunks glowing faintly as if veins of light ran within them. Kale had not planned to come here. He was an explorer, a traveler of stars, yet his ship had faltered mid-flight and he had crashed onto this alien planet. The wreckage smoked behind him, half buried in the glowing soil. Kale took a shaky breath, clutching the small bundle at his chest, the gift he had brought. A simple carved wooden trinket from Earth, smooth in his hands, polished with care. It was a small thing. A human thing, and yet somehow it felt important. The first warning came in the shape of shadows moving between the glowing trees. They were tall, too tall to be human, their forms sharp and angular, moving with a precision that made Kale's stomach twist. Before he could react, a voice, cold yet melodic, echoed through the clearing. "Who dares step onto my land?" The voice belonged to no ordinary being. It resonated with authority, with centuries of command and solitude. From the shadows emerged her Aurelia, the alien queen. She was unlike anything Kale had ever imagined. Tall, regal, her skin shimmering faintly like polished obsidian under the alien sky. Her eyes glowed with a soft silver light, and her presence seemed to bend the very air around her. She moved toward him, each step deliberate, her gaze piercing. The sentinels at her side, creatures of crystalline form, shifted silently, their jagged limbs reflecting the strange light. Kale swallowed hard, unsure whether to bow, flee, or speak. I am Kale," he said, voice trembling. "I come in peace. My ship crashed, I didn't mean to." She leaned forward slightly, her eyes narrowing in curiosity. "A human," she said softly, the words almost a whisper, yet carrying weight enough to make Kale's knees weak. "You are far from home, and yet you carry something small, something unusual. I wanted to offer it to you. Do you know what you risk by giving to me?" She stepped closer, and Kale could feel a strange warmth emanating from her, a force that was both terrifying and magnetic. "You are bold," she said, "and foolish, but boldness has a strange beauty in it." He held out the gift with both hands, offering it without hesitation. "Please," he said quietly, "it's nothing grand, but I hope it brings some small meaning to you." The touch sent a jolt through Kale like electricity, yet it was not painful, it was awakening. Aurelia studied the wooden carving, her expression unreadable. "This is curious," she murmured. "Such a fragile thing, and yet it holds honesty. Humans have a strange way of showing truth in small forms. To show that not all of us seek to conquer or destroy. There is much in my palace that no outsider has seen for centuries. Perhaps you will learn why gifts, however simple, can hold unexpected power." He followed her into the shadows of the glowing forest, the air thick with strange scents and humming energy. As they walked, Kale observed her more closely. Aurelia was a being of contradictions. She was terrifying yet beautiful, distant yet capable of subtle warmth. The palace awaited ahead, a structure of floating crystal towers and walls that shimmered like liquid light. The closer they approached, the more Kale felt that this world was alive, aware of their presence. They reached the palace gates, massive and carved with symbols that pulsed with an inner glow. Aurelia stopped before them, turning to Kale. "Know this," she said, her voice carrying the weight of a ruler who had survived countless wars and betrayals. "This place tests those who enter. The palace sees truth and fear alike. Your courage brought you this far, but will it protect you inside?" Kale followed, his senses overwhelmed by the brilliance and strangeness of the place. Crystalline halls stretched in impossible patterns, stairways that seemed to float in midair, and corridors lined with glowing inscriptions of a language he could not understand. It was beautiful, it was terrifying, and it was alive. Kale realized with a mix of awe and fear that he had stepped into a world where power and magic intertwined, where every corner held secrets, and where the alien queen's presence dominated everything. Yet amidst all this, there was a fragile thread, the small gift he had given her. Somehow it had opened a door. Somehow it had made her pause, consider, and care. He did not know what awaited him inside the palace. Allies, enemies, or perhaps something more dangerous, the stirring of emotions he had never expected to face in an alien realm. But Kale stepped forward, following her into the heart of the palace, gripping the small gift in his hand. Whatever the future held, he had taken the first step toward a connection that could change both their worlds. And Aurelia, the alien queen, felt a flicker of something she had not known in centuries, curiosity. And perhaps, just perhaps, the first trace of hope. The palace doors closed behind them with a resonant hum, leaving the glowing forest outside, and Kale realized that he had crossed a threshold from which there was no turning back. The palace of the alien queen was unlike any place Kale had ever imagined. Crystalline towers stretched endlessly upward, reflecting the alien sky in shards of violet and gold. Inside, corridors seemed to bend and twist as if the palace itself breathed, its walls alive with a faint luminescence. Each step Kale took echoed softly, blending with a hum that resonated deep within him. It was as though the building could feel him walking through it. Aurelia led him through hallways lined with inscriptions that shimmered when touched by the light of her passing. Her movements were fluid, like water flowing over stones, yet precise, every gesture radiating command and grace. Kale followed closely, feeling a strange mixture of awe and fear. He had faced storms, alien beasts, and the void of space, yet nothing had prepared him for the presence of the Queen. "You must understand," Aurelia said, her voice breaking the silence. "Not all who enter my palace leave unscathed. It tests hearts, reveals truths, and punishes weakness. Perhaps that is why you are still here." "This is incredible," he whispered. Aurelia studied him. "It is my world, and yet to outsiders it is dangerous. You must learn its ways quickly." And yet he felt a strange connection, as if being here with her was a choice not of fear but of trust. Over the next days, Aurelia allowed Kale to explore under her supervision. He learned to navigate the floating stairways, to read the shimmering inscriptions on the walls, and to understand the faint energy pulses that filled the palace. Each lesson was subtle, wrapped in her quiet instructions, yet every moment spent with her revealed more of the Queen's depth. One evening they reached a balcony overlooking the glowing forest beyond the palace. The twin moons of Lyria hung low in the sky, casting silver reflections across the floating lakes below. Kale watched the light ripple across the water, mesmerized. "You look at the moons as though they hold answers," Aurelia said, stepping beside him. Her voice was softer than usual, carrying a trace of something he could not name. I suppose I'm searching for something familiar," Kale admitted. "Even in a place like this, I seek something that feels like home." "Humans cling to familiarity," she said finally. "I too once clung to what I thought would keep me safe, but time and power taught me otherwise. Safety is an illusion, control is a cage." "Then what do you seek now?" He had expected a ruler, a queen beyond emotion, but in that moment he saw her as something more, a being with fears, hopes, and longings. He wanted to be that person for her, though he knew the risk. Days turned into nights, and their bond deepened. Kale learned that Aurelia was bound by an ancient curse, one that forbade her from forming close attachments. Those she loved could be harmed by the very essence of her power. Yet, despite this, she allowed Kale to walk beside her, share stories of Earth, and even teach her small human gestures of connection, laughter, patience, and trust. Aurelia, in turn, taught him survival in her world. She showed him how to move through the forests without disturbing the energy currents, how to read the patterns of light that signaled danger, and how to sense the moods of creatures that were neither beast nor spirit. Kale's respect for her grew with each lesson, and she seemed equally intrigued by his resilience. One night, during a particularly radiant lunar eclipse, they found themselves atop a floating terrace. The sky was ablaze with shimmering colors, and the palace below glowed like a constellation. Kale turned to Aurelia, noticing the way the light reflected in her silver eyes, making them seem almost liquid. "I don't know why you let me stay," Kale said softly. "Why you trust me." Yet in her presence he felt stronger, braver, alive in ways he had never imagined. "I want to help," he said. "I want to stand with you, even if it is dangerous. But perhaps, together, we might endure it." One wrong move, one misstep in understanding her world, and the consequences could be severe. Yet Kale refused to pull away. He saw past the power, past the icy command, and glimpsed the being beneath, the queen who had loved and lost, who had been shaped by centuries of solitude and battles, and who still longed for connection. Aurelia, for her part, found herself unaccustomed to the human emotions Kale inspired. His courage, his laughter, his vulnerability, all of it unsettled her, yet drew her in. She began to question the strict isolation she had maintained for centuries. Could she allow herself to care? Could she risk the potential destruction of what she held most dear? One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise, a warning pulse ran through the palace. Aurelia stiffened, her silver eyes narrowing. "You must leave this terrace," she said, her voice firm. "Something stirs in the shadows, I feel it. You are safe with me, but danger is close." He had come to trust her judgment, to rely on her guidance, yet a part of him felt a thrill of fear. Oralia moved with precision, her senses alert as they navigated the glowing corridors. "You feel it too," Kale whispered. Oralia nodded, her gaze scanning the shadows. "Yes, there are those in my court who do not welcome outsiders or change. You have made yourself known, human. That carries consequences. The path ahead is not easy. Trust, loyalty, and courage will be tested. But if you endure, you will see more than most ever have, and perhaps you will understand why a small gift, offered with sincerity, can move even the most powerful heart." He felt the bond between them deepen, a connection forged through shared risk, mutual curiosity, and quiet understanding. And though he knew challenges lay ahead, he also knew he would not turn back. The alien skies darkened with a turbulent violet storm as Kale and Oralia made their way through the forested outskirts of the palace. Strange winds twisted the glowing trees, and the air thrummed with unseen energy. Even with Oralia guiding him, Kale felt every step carry the weight of uncertainty. Danger was constant in her world, and he had come to understand that survival required more than courage. It demanded intuition, respect, and trust. "You must focus," Oralia said, her voice calm but edged with urgency. "The forest senses fear. It will respond to it. Do not falter." Kale froze, and Oralia's eyes sharpened, glowing silver in the dim light. "A trap," she whispered. "They are here." Oralia moved with swift precision, her hand tracing the air in an elegant arc. Waves of energy radiated outward, forcing the creatures back, yet Kale could feel their persistence. "Stay close," Oralia warned. "Do not wander, do not fear, but do not underestimate them." She was both terrifying and breathtaking, every movement deliberate, every decision precise. Yet in the chaos of the attack, there was also trust. She had chosen to bring him here to let him witness and survive the trials. As the spectral creatures retreated, Kale realized something vital. His gift, the simple trinket he had offered her, seemed to resonate with the palace's energy. A faint warmth spread through his hand as he touched it, and he sensed the forest's response subtly shifting around them. He did not understand why yet, but it gave him a flicker of hope. After the forest cleared, they reached a crystalline canyon. Floating stones hovered above glowing chasms, and the storm above sent streaks of silver lightning dancing across the landscape. Oralia stepped onto one of the floating stones with ease, motioning for Kale to follow. "This path is treacherous," she said. "One misstep and you could fall into the chasm, but it is also a test of focus, balance, and courage." He realized that every trial in this world was more than physical. It tested the heart. And Oralia watched him, her gaze both analytical and faintly curious. When they reached the canyon's edge, Oralia turned to him. "You are stronger than you know," she said softly. "Courage is not the absence of fear, Kale. It is moving forward despite it." Her words were simple, yet they carried weight, as if they were a bridge between two worlds, the alien and the human, the immortal and the mortal. In her presence, he felt a strange confidence growing, a sense that he could endure more than he had ever imagined. Days passed in this way, lessons, trials, and quiet conversations beneath alien moons. They shared stories of distant worlds, of battles and losses, of moments when hope had seemed impossible. Kale taught her of Earth, of small joys that humans often overlooked, sunsets, laughter, music. She, in turn, showed him the subtleties of her realm, the way energy could be read, shaped, and respected, the delicate balance of life that flowed through the forests, lakes, and floating towers. Through these moments, their bond deepened. Kale began to understand Oralia in ways few could. He saw her not just as a queen of immense power, but as a being shaped by centuries of solitude, duty, and sacrifice. And Oralia, for the first time in centuries, allowed herself small moments of vulnerability. She laughed quietly at his stories, listened intently to his ideas, and even questioned her own long-held beliefs about isolation and control. One night, under the light of two rising moons, they reached a hidden waterfall cascading into a glowing lake. The water shimmered with phosphorescent light, illuminating the rocks in pale blues and greens. Kale watched in awe, his reflection mingling with the moonlight. "This place," he whispered, "it feels alive. Even here in a world so strange." They were skilled, their attacks precise, testing both his resolve and Oralia's patience. Kale fought bravely, relying on lessons she had taught him, while Oralia defended him with controlled bursts of her energy. "You will not harm him," she said, her voice like steel, echoing across the courtyard. Her power radiated outward, bending light and energy around her, forcing the nobles to retreat. Kale stared breathless at the queen who had saved him yet again. I don't know how to thank you, he said. Oralia's expression softened just slightly. Your courage is thanks enough. You could have fled. You did not. That is why you are still here. Kale realized how deeply he had come to care for her, not just as a powerful ruler, but as a being who had taught him the meaning of courage, trust, and hope. And Oralia, for her part, felt emotions she had long buried. The human's bravery, sincerity, and unwavering trust in her were slowly unraveling the walls she had built over centuries. She wondered, perhaps for the first time, if connection could coexist with power without destruction. But the palace held secrets, and their trials were far from over. Whispers of dissent among the court, shadows in the forest, and the mysterious energy of the realm hinted that even their growing bond could be tested beyond endurance. Kale held his trinket in his hand, feeling the warmth of both the gift and Oralia's presence. He had learned that survival here required more than skill. It required understanding, trust, and emotional strength. And as he looked at her, he knew that whatever challenges awaited, he would face them by her side. Oralia's eyes met his, silver light reflecting determination, worry, and something else, something fragile yet powerful. We have grown stronger together, she said softly. But strength is not always enough. Be ready, Kale. The palace tests more than skill, it tests hearts. He had survived storms, spectral creatures, and floating chasms, but the real trials, the trials of loyalty, love, and choice, were only beginning. The palace of Lyria shivered under the weight of approaching turmoil. Dark clouds swirled above, electric streaks illuminating the crystalline towers in harsh flashes. Kale and Oralia stood together in the grand hall, the air thick with tension. The whispers he had felt days ago were now louder, more focused, and carrying a sharp intent. Somewhere in the shadows, traitors and enemies moved, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Oralia's silver eyes glimmered with controlled fury as she turned to Kale. "This is it," she said quietly. "They believe the queen can be challenged. They do not know I am not powerless." "Together," he said, meeting her gaze. "We face it together." Their attacks were precise, coordinated, but Oralia's power radiated outward, bending light and energy with every gesture. Crystalline shards floated around her, forming barriers and weapons simultaneously. Kale moved beside her, cautious but ready. He had learned much from her teachings, the subtle readings of energy, the ways to move without triggering the palace's reactive forces, and the importance of focus. Yet this was the first real test of their unity. "Stay close," Oralia commanded, her voice carrying over the chaos. Kale dodged a floating energy shard, feeling it slice through the air inches from his arm. He gripped the trinket tighter, sensing its warmth and subtle resonance. The creatures attacking them faltered briefly, recoiling as if aware of its presence. Oralia's silver eyes met his, and in that silent exchange they understood one another perfectly. Strength alone would not win this battle. Trust, timing, and courage were their true weapons. With a decisive sweep of her hand, Oralia released a pulse of energy that scattered the attackers, sending them tumbling across the crystalline floor. Yet the threat was far from over. From the shadows, a more dangerous figure emerged, a court mage who had long resented her rule, wielding forbidden energy that twisted the palace's very essence. "You cannot stop me, Oralia," the mage hissed. "The throne is mine, and this outsider will see your end." "You cannot do this alone," he said quietly, stepping forward. "Let me help. Whatever comes, we face it together." The mage struck, sending waves of distorted energy crashing toward them. Oralia blocked the first assault, but the energy continued to surge, bending the palace walls and threatening the floating towers. Kale, remembering her lessons, moved carefully through the energy pulses, holding the trinket. He could feel it respond, faintly amplifying the energy around him in harmony with Oralia's power. "Now, Kale," Oralia shouted, creating an opening with a focused burst of her energy. Kale pressed the trinket to his chest and focused, allowing its resonance to guide him. A beam of soft, golden light shot outward, connecting with Oralia's energy. The combination created a protective wave that swept across the hall, pushing the mage back and neutralizing the chaotic energy. The mage screamed, faltering under the combined force. Oralia advanced, silver eyes blazing, her hands weaving patterns of light that trapped him within a crystalline cage. The palace seemed to pulse in approval, recognizing the unity of human and queen. Kale exhaled, feeling both relief and awe. "It worked," he whispered. Oralia lowered her hands, her energy settling, yet her expression remained wary. "It was not enough," she said. The palace still tests us. The true danger lies ahead. It had remained dormant for centuries, but the chaos had awakened it. Kale could feel the air thicken, the energy around them twisting with unseen tension. "This is it," Aurelia said, her voice almost reverent. "This relic, it is the source of the curse. It must be approached carefully." "We can do it," he said, "together." Kale realized that the small gift he had given her, the wooden trinket, was more than symbolic. It contained a piece of his human essence, pure and untainted, which resonated with her energy. Together, their combined focus could unlock the relic's hold over her. Aurelia inhaled, centering herself. "Kale, hold it with me. Place your trust in me as I trust you." Aurelia closed her eyes, channeling her power, letting go of centuries of fear, isolation, and anger. The relic resisted, but together, the human sincerity and the queen's controlled energy formed a harmony that the curse could not withstand. With a final pulse of combined light, the relic shattered into fragments of harmless crystal, scattering across the chamber floor. Aurelia collapsed to her knees, exhausted but free. Kale knelt beside her, holding her hand. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it. You have given me something I thought was lost forever." The curse that had defined Aurelia for centuries was gone, and with it, the barriers that had kept her heart isolated. The Queen of Lyria was no longer alone. As dawn approached, casting soft light across the crystalline towers, Kale and Aurelia stood atop the palace balcony, looking over a world renewed. The storm had passed, leaving the skies streaked with gold and violet, a symbol of transformation. "We have changed," Aurelia said quietly, her gaze on the horizon. "Not just the palace, but ourselves. You have shown me that connection is not weakness, but strength. Together we can face anything." The alien queen smiled, a genuine, radiant expression that had not touched her face for centuries. Kale returned the smile, knowing that whatever came next, they had endured the impossible and emerged stronger. The palace shimmered beneath the rising twin moons, a beacon of hope, power, and love forged in trials. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, new adventures awaited. Yet Kale and Aurelia knew, as long as they faced them together, nothing could break the bond they had formed. The gift, small and simple, had sparked something unimaginable, a connection that transcended worlds, a love tempered in danger, and a future no one could have predicted.